Take that, sir! By God, you shall have more of this yet. Those words reverberated around Kirkcaldy High Street as local banker George Morgan struck David Landale on the head with his umbrella. What had started as a dispute over a bank loan had led to this altercation and would ultimately end in Scotland's last ever fatal duel, fought exactly 200 years ago today. In truth, it was never a fair contest. Morgan, a former soldier, had attacked Landale so publicly precisely because he knew that the businessman's honour would force him into proposing a duel, despite the practice having been made illegal. And with his combat experience, Morgan knew that he would surely prevail over the man who had to travel to Edinburgh in the days before the clash to purchase his very first pistol. At dawn on the 23rd of August, 1826, the two men and their seconds met in a field just south of Cardenden, and following the duelling code that had been laid down centuries before, they stood 12 paces apart, took aim, and fired. But as the smoke cleared, it was the military man who lay in the grass, blood pouring from his mouth, with the linen merchant standing in the morning sun unscathed, the last man in Scotland ever to kill another one in a duel. And in Kirkcaldy just yesterday, we saw a fitting demonstration of what would happen if a duel lasted for 90 minutes. With Ayr United's hopes killed stone dead by a red card and 2 goals in the opening quarter of an hour, the Rovers didn't have to follow David Landale's lead and flee for the border. Instead, they turned in a controlled and professional performance that rightfully earned them all 3 points. This is the Oh No 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 podcast. My name is Duncan Cameron, and I'm joined tonight by a couple of hip young gunslingers. First of all, we've got Blair Hawcroft. How are you?
I'm very well, mate. Yeah, all good. Thoroughly enjoyed that yesterday, actually. So, yeah, I've been looking forward to this all day.
Good, me too. And we've also got Robbie Weir. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm doing really well. Thoroughly enjoyable weekend overall, and it's had the added cherry on top of a convincing win yesterday.
Excellent. Well, let's not hang about. We'll jump straight in. It was sort of effectively an unchanged lineup for the Rovers. Callum Adamson coming in for Aaron Lyle, mirroring the change that was made 10 minutes into the last game at Queen's Park. But, Robbie, the most notable name on the team sheet was the inclusion of Friday's loan signing, Scott Tiffany from Kilmarnock. Your thoughts on that piece of business, please?
Yeah, firstly, great to see us recycle content in terms of the 1990s tunes, and Ian McCall getting an honourable mention, should we say, but also as well fair play to the numerous people that made the obvious comment to the 1980s of I think it's a loan now, with the type of deal that it was that got put out there. In terms of Tiffany signing, and just in terms of what it will add to the squad, really enthusiastic about it. I know that it's something that the club have been keen to get moving forward for weeks. I thought it was quite interesting that Dougie Emery sort of gave credit to the extra sort of funds that have been made available by the board and the work that's been put in to get over the line. With Tiffany, I suspect that it's the type of signing where he probably falls into that John Baird bracket of being very good at championship level, but not quite there in terms of the top flight. I mean, he did have a good spell with Dundee, less in terms of his time with Kelly, where he less opportunities, particularly under Neil McCann. Been playing more sort of reserve team under 19s football. But I think that it's a great signing because firstly, it's adding a player that can bring goals and assists to the table. And secondly, as well, you're also denying that from another team at our level. Because I suspect that when you look at the majority of the championship, I would imagine that quite a lot of the teams would have been keen to bring him back. He has admittedly played for a good number of them, Ayr, Partick Thistle, Morton. So Livingston as well. So really glad that we've got that one over the line. I think that with the attacking options that we've got, when you consider going into sort of this season, you lose Josh Mullen, obviously recently Lewis Gibson and Richard Chin via sale. You bring in John Robertson, you've already got Dylan Easton, you've got Scott Tiffany and Paul McMullen in there. I think that Paul McMullen actually starting the season, we'll come and speak about him in a little bit, but the way that he started the season, that's immeasurable upgrades over the board. With all due respect to the players that have departed, Dougie Emery's clearly identified, not just in terms of the central midfield, but also out wide, to have that ability to replace maybe players that were a bit more raw with a bit more pace, or sheer technique in terms of what Josh Mullen brought to the table, to have that attack and sort of flair, presence, and just outright experience. Again, John Robertson's going to be a bit rawer, but you can see that he's still causing problems for teams to add another body into the mix. And also as well, it's a really strange comment to make. I know that it's been mentioned elsewhere, but to have Dylan Easton not being your starting sort of wide left player would have been unthinkable. But here we are. I'm hugely enthusiastic about the move. Just overall, I think we're in a better place.
Yeah, I mean, Blair, last time you and I were on, after that Queen's Park game, we were sort of discussing the possibility or the likelihood that Lewis Gibson had kicked his last ball for the Rovers. That obviously proved to be true. He left for Airdrie soon after. He has already scored twice for the Diamonds, but you confident that Scott Tiffany represents an upgrade there?
Yeah, I am. I think it's just, I feel like we've kind of gone to a situation now where you've basically got two that can play wide right and two that can play wide left. And within that mix, you've got one who kind of specialises in playing wide right and is left-footed, and one who isn't. And then on the other side, in Easton, you've got one who's playing on the left, but I mean, he's two-footed. He's as two-footed as a player as you're going to get at this level, but stronger on his right. And you've got that kind of that extra option effectively. Now of I keep saying it, I still think there's scope to see Robertson playing on the other side. I think it's just it's experience as much as anything else. I mean, our of those four players now, our least experienced wide man, if you like, is a boy that scored and was involved in 40 odd goals in League Two last season. Like, whereas last season, as Robbie said, your least experienced player had come from the, I even know, Conference North or whatever it was that Chinny came up from. It was a pretty low level, kind of really just starting out in his career. I think there's just a wee bit of guile about it now, like a wee bit of hopefully and I know we'll kind of come on to it quite a bit as the podcast goes on, I think, because I think the overwhelming message for me anyway from yesterday's game was the difference in just the game management, the savviness, the streetwise, all those things that we kept saying for ages that we didn't have. Scott Tiffany fits that mould perfectly. Do you know what I mean? He comes in with a wealth of experience. He's a bit of a shit, isn't he? Like, he's one of those players that just has that niggle and drive about him. So yeah, I think it's a really good bit of business. And I've been banging on for a few weeks now. I feel like this squad it's tight. Don't get me wrong, it is small. We all know that. It's really well balanced though.
I mean, to be fair, that now takes us up to, if everybody's fit, somebody's sitting in the stand. So we are now beyond like the minimum you would want. But that is quite simply, that is four wingers for two positions, any of whom you'd be absolutely fine with. Like, in a way that, like Robbie, you just said with Dylan Easton, if someone showed you a team sheet last season and Lewis Gibson was in it, you'd think, with all due respect to him, you'd think somebody's injured or suspended. Whereas if you see any two of those four wingers we've just been discussing, there's absolutely nothing to suggest that there's almost like a junior pairing in there. It's horses for courses. There's guys in there that you're quite happy for any one of those four to start, or any two of them to start in any given game. So it does. I think we were already quite comfortable that the central midfield was well stocked. We've got two right backs and we've got two left backs that I think we're all pretty comfortable with all four of those guys. And now we've got two right wingers, two left wingers, and including guys who can play on either side there as well. And actually, once Vaughan and Oakley are back, we've also got 3 strikers for one position there as well. Suddenly it seems like this has crept up out of nowhere. We're one centre half away from like an incredibly healthy squad with a lot of depth and no padding. Like, don't get me wrong, the if we get, there can't be that much money left, but if a centre half comes in, it could very well be a Dylan Corr type. But if it's not, if it's a Dara O'Connor type, that is a fully stacked squad of all championship level players.
If you think about it, your least experienced player in there is Kai Montague. And like, he's made himself at home in that number 10 role. I know that we'll talk about that later on, but yeah.
This is it. Just one thing on Lewis Gibson before we move on. Blair, as you said in the last episode, I said it as well, and I think we were kind of sad to see him go. That was before I saw the tattoo of a tiger's face he has on his forearm, which he's choosing to hold up in front of his own face in his Airdrie goal celebration photo, which I'm afraid is behaviour I cannot condone, especially because it's squint.
I just assumed he'd listen to this. Like, it's the tiger cage, isn't it? I mean, I was talking about it 2 years ago. Like,
he's sitting on the bench just like that.
Yeah, he's not getting a game. He's sitting on the bench. We're just rattling the tiger cage. He's taking it literally.
Dear me.
It's awful.
Yes, but obviously, to be fair, I've not seen it. Apparently, scored an absolute peach yesterday. So yes, in all seriousness, I do hope he does very, very well for Airdrie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, let's not beat around the bush. In terms of this game yesterday, the Rovers started brightly, but we'll skip the first 5 minutes and get straight to the defining incident of this game, I think we can call it. Leon King sent off for bringing down Paul McMullen after he was dispossessed as the only man really in the middle of his own defence. Robbie, to my mind, the only sort of possible argument against a red card here is if you think that there's a covering defender. Do you think Usain Holt was going to get across and stop Paul McMullen there?
I'm not too sure. I mean, I've seen some Ayr fans sort of talking about how Paul McMullen, the hugely grievous individual that he is, tripped up Leon King, apparently, was their suggestion. I'm not having it. I think that, like, when you see it, history's sort of shown it's the correct call for me. I think back to the one at East End Park with Ewan Murray, where he tangles with Chris Kane a couple of years ago.
Yep.
And that was giving us a straight red for a goal-scoring opportunity. So, yeah, I'm not too sure in terms about the cover. I'd need to sort of look at it back. But I think that Paul McMillan's done a tremendous job with his press, like, immediately, straight off the back. Like, you're watching it and you think, like, he's covered up so much ground. And I don't know why Leon King thinks he's got the time that he's got. But for whatever reason, he just dallies on the ball. And he's, like, thinking, right, I'm fine. Then all of a sudden, Paul McMullen's there. Now, Paul McMullen is not the most sturdy of characters in terms of his profile, shall we say. He's hardly a lumbering giant, but to get knocked off balance and then to sort of be looking at it, yeah, just for me, I thought it was a red card when I've looked at it back. Bear in mind, I know a lot of criticisms came for Lloyd Wilson in this, but like, he's only seen it once, and he's seen it from the side of where he has, which is in the middle of the pitch. I think it's very hard to be like overly critical as to it, but yeah, just pulling up the sort of challenge now.
If you'll allow me to spoil it for you, Kevin Holt's not going to catch Paul McMullen there. He's too light. I do like that. After the whistle's gone, Kevin Holt maintains his run, so that as he's arguing from 10 yards behind where the foul is, as if it's like, I was here all along. What are you talking about? But no, he's sort of level with Paul McMullen, but on the touchline effectively.
Left back.
Yeah. So, I mean, maybe to be fair, I hadn't really interrogated the actual kind of challenge in great detail, but I'm not sold on that. I'm not convinced it's a trip. I think at worst, it's kind of body to body, and McMullen sitting next to the ball away. The one
McMullen
thing
definitely gets his leg caught under. King definitely catches his leg though. That's undeniable, especially when you look at Jim Foy's photos on the website. Like
Blair's making faces that suggest he's.
I'm going to come at this and I'm going to be totally open about it, and I'm going to say on the replays, I think he's got a case to feel a bit hard done by. I think he genuinely does, but I agree with what Robbie's saying. I don't think there was a soul in Starks Park at 3:10 that was up in arms about that was never a foul, that was never a foul. It looked all to the world. And especially because the way that King goes down and he throws his arm out, he effectively kind of rugby tackles him down. I mean, King's basically pulling him down. So the only get out, I don't think it matters particularly about the covering defender unless he's right next to him, because it's no attempt to play the ball. It's a professional foul, if you like, in that regard. And it's clearly a goal scoring opportunity at that point. I do think there's wee shades of it for me that reminded me a wee bit, a slightly different scenario, but the Vinicius Junior in the Scotland-Brazil game at the World Cup, where he nicks the ball off Henry, doesn't get brought down because Henry doesn't rugby tackle him effectively, breaks away and he scores, and then it comes back to VAR, and basically what's happened is Vinny's nicked his foot in and effectively prevented Jack Henry from playing the pass that he wanted to play. I think there's an element of that. I think it would take a hell of a brave referee with no replays, with no information other than what he sees in front of him, to not give that red card in that moment. But when you see the actual challenge itself, for me, McMullen does just kind of clip. He gets his foot in front of Leon King, and kind of just that initial contact, I think he kind of instigates. But I think if Leon King's sensible about it and goes down, like, he might have got that foul. Like, there's every chance he would have got that foul. As soon as you throw your arms out and wrap yourself around him and pull him down, you look guilty as hell. So I feel for the referee in that sense. Ayr might argue that it is or it isn't or whatever. I think the referee, with what he had in front of him, had no choice.
Because King, I don't think, he certainly, judging by his body language, isn't making a really compelling case that he was fouled. He looks flabbergasted. He looks like, what happened there? As he's lying, he's sitting on his backside and the referee's showing him a red card. And he looks like he's still going, I had the ball a second ago. I was fine. By the way, no excuse for him not knowing that Paul McMullen was coming. Because in the highlights, you can hear Doug Emery from the other side of the pitch shouting, Pizzo! As he's staring down at him. So all the warning they could possibly want.
Reminds me of that sort of one of the first viral videos that was doing the rounds on YouTube, with the guy just yelling at his dog, Fenton, Jesus Christ.
There's deer scattering as Paul McMullen chases through. So I don't think Leon King knows whether he's been fouled or not. I think he is genuinely but as you say, his reaction is that the last thing he should do, which is that he realises McMullen's getting away from him and actually just sort of throws his body across.
He's stopping him at any cost.
Like, live, I wasn't sure if he hadn't handled it because he sort of just flailed and came down. But the interesting thing with this as well is the two managers' interviews, Gary Naismith doesn't mention it, which would suggest to me that he's certainly not up in arms. Either he's very, very calm, very measured, and knows it's not going to make any difference. But I would suggest if he doesn't think that's a red card, he'd have mentioned it. Instead, he's very much focusing on the reaction. But in stark contrast to that, Dougie Emery, first thing he says is, listen, whether it's a red card or not, which you would suggest it's probably not in his eyes, and then Davey asks about it directly. And he basically, again, is like, well, look, these, sometimes it is, sometimes it's not, which, again, as would suggest to me that of the two managers, Gary Naismith was pretty convinced it was. Dougie Emery didn't really think it was.
Yeah. One bit that I did think was quite interesting. For me, the timing, not really relevant. Like, it could happen in the first minute, last minute. Like, you're playing a game of football. Every incident should be judged, like, on its merits at that point. Like,
Absolutely.
so it seems a bit odd to sort of go in and say, like, well, 5 minutes in, it's happened, and like, shouldn't matter.
Yeah. So that was
like, it's fine to deny a goal scoring opportunity in the first 5 minutes. Just didn't do it after 20 minutes, boys.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe I'm being kind of charitable, because I don't think it was in his sort of
No.
Ayr TV interview, but there was a quote I'd seen written down from Gary Naismith saying it was the earliest red card he's seen in his 40 years in football. I didn't necessarily read that as so it shouldn't have been a red card. Again, I think it was more. I think he was annoyed at his own team, more so for the defender afterwards. But I think that kind of extended to, could we not drag people down when they're clean through on goal and we're only 5 minutes into the game, please? I think that's one of these, and I think this is probably the case for everyone, certainly in hindsight, that actually what Leon King should have done, if we take for red that he wasn't fouled, it's let Paul McMillan go.
Aye.
It's take a chance, trust your goalkeeper, who, incidentally, I thought had a very good game, and have 11 men, and still be available for next week as well. But I think he just panics. He gets quite simply caught flat-footed. He's not expecting it, and he panics and he throws his body into Paul McMillan. And that, again, I think also probably plays into the referee's mind a little bit. Like, it's not in a laws of the game sense because it's not in the box, but, you know, it's one of these, like, he's not making an attempt to play the ball. He is just, as you say, basically trying to rugby tackle a guy. And it's like a guilty action.
Half second between the initial sort of like first like two players come together, and then like about half a second later, Leon King's crumpling to the ground, bringing down Paul McMillan at the same time. Just
But that is it.
I would be surprised if. No, I was going to say I would be surprised if they don't appeal it. I think there's enough kind of dubiety in it. Like it could. I genuinely think you can read it one way or the other. And I think that there's every chance of sticking an appeal. But for me, it's one of them. It could go either way. Like I really think it could go either way. But
that for me
is
in that scenario. Sorry to interrupt you, but that's the one where the SFA should back the referee because he's not made an egregious error.
That's what
he's acted on the what's happened in front of him live, and I think he's
what's in front of him.
Aye, it is perfectly understandable. Whether when you slow it down and all that kind of stuff in sort of excruciating detail, is it correct or not? I mean, even that is probably still subjective, but it's perfectly justifiable refereeing.
I agree.
And I would say that if it was given against us as well. Whether he's got it right or wrong, you can see why he's given what he's given. There's no massive misjudgment or anything in it.
No, totally.
See, just by the instant overall, though, I think that like the way that we start the game, even the first 5 minutes before, we were so aggressive, so on the front foot. Like you saw Delaney and Dowds linking up in terms of trying to get forward with the ball, getting crosses in. Like you could see our game plan right from the start was to be very, very on the front foot, try to exploit that sort of space, and that's our reward for it. Like ultimately, we got a red card because of how well we did that, and I think it's important not to take away from that because I feel like with this game, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to sort of look at it and say, well, it was against 10 men. Like we could have done that. Like but I still don't think it should take away from the overall performance on the day. I can talk about that more in a bit.
Yeah, and also you don't have to go massively out of our frame of reference to find games against Ayr United at Starks Park where having an extra man didn't yield a positive result. At one point, I was getting really afraid I was going to see a photo of a very grumpy Anton Dowds with a match ball and 1 point in his pocket. The thing on that, to that point though, Robbie, part of me is really quite sort of disappointed that we didn't get to see more of how that game would have played out 11 against 11 because, and I have no evidence for this, it's obviously just pure speculation, but I'm not sold on the way that Gary Naismith set his team up at all. So you got a back three. You've then got Scott McMahon, who is absolutely a defender, at left wing back, and you've got Minseat and Luke Macbeth as your holding midfielder. Like that's such a conservative, like such a defensive setup. But at the same time, you've got 3 centre halves, and they've only got Anton Dowds to occupy them. I think even at 11 against 11, Adamson, Montague, and Telfer should have so much space there. Now, obviously, they would hope to be getting Watrett and McMahon in behind us, and we never really had any chance to see that at all. But in that very small sample size, that opening 5 minutes, I thought Imrie had the side set up better of the two. And as part of me was quite looking forward to seeing how that was going to play out and where, we never got to see the ebb and flow. The game had just started to ebb and then went completely. But it would have been quite an intriguing kind of tactical setup, because I think it was the same thing they did at East End Park, where they ultimately got a point, but I don't think played very well. And it'll be interesting. I think the Macbeth in midfield thing, I think, is kind of enforced. I don't know, not a lot of midfield options at the moment, but still, I think they probably could have found a better way to set up against this. But 5 minutes in, we get the red card. We did not have to wait an awful lot longer than that for the first goal, to the point where I got a text to say, was that a penalty that was scored after the red card? Well, it might well have been, but not in this case. The Rovers making their extra man count with, because I went back and checked this, a goal that involved absolutely everyone except Callum Adamson. Patient build-up right across the side, including Josh Wright. Moving the ball side to side eventually leads to Paul McMillan sort of slipping Kai Montague into that back line between Dylan Watrett and Luke Macbeth. His cutback is sort of partially blocked, but Zach Delaney has been on the charge, and he's on hand to lay it off to Anton Dowds, who I'm going to call it his precision finish gives Harry Stone no chance. Robbie, as you say, the red card gives us an extra man, but is this the kind of pattern you think was already sort of starting to establish itself before that?
Yeah, definitely. I think that by getting the extra man in midfield, immediately you sort of see Charlie Telfer and Callum Adamson right away imposing themselves more in the game, just demanding the ball at the heart of midfield. And Ayr didn't really have an answer for it. Zach Delaney's starting to push up really, really highly. It's an absolute perfect sort of pass through to Kai Montague, who does really, really well. I know that we sort of spoke about it before, but he really has, it's to his eternal credit that he's made that number 10 jersey his own in a sort of system where there's so many sort of big players that we've got in attacking options, and yet I think we really need to be slapping down a contract for him on the table as soon as possible. And I'm sure that there's sort of ongoing discussions about that. But that's I know it's been mentioned across the Rovers support, but the start that he's had to this season's been absolutely superb. He's just grown in confidence so much. And it wasn't a goal, it wasn't an assist, but the work ethic in terms of the build-up for that goal, because he just keeps going right up to the byline and then just touches it back. Now, there's a degree of fortune there coming off Liam Dick, but then Zach Delaney's also pushed up so highly that he's immediately in the box there to sort of pass it off. And what I really like about it was Anton Dowds just peeling away from Kevin Hope, just being able to sort of just really, really sleek it, just being able to sort of drift away from him, and particularly enjoyed him celebrating against his old club. I think that Anton Dowds probably had a sort of, I know that he'd been offered a deal from Ayr, there were sort of ongoing negotiations, and ultimately they couldn't come to an agreement, and then he's ended up with us. But just, yeah, what an asset he'll be if he can do that. He's looking more and more sort of streamlined. I think, I don't know if it's just per coincidence that the goals are coming and people are like, it looks like he's getting up to full fitness now. But yeah, just really, really positive to see. And I think that's something that we have really missed. Like, I don't know, it's not like speaking ill of the dead. It's like kind of speaking ill of players that have left the club. But like, you just wouldn't have had that with Jack Hamilton. Like, he was good in the 6-yard box, but not the same degree of like snap finishing and peeling away and opportunities like that. So yeah, I've been really, again, I was probably in a bracket of a sort of cohort of people that sort of looked at Anton Dowds coming to the club and was a bit like, it's all right. Really enthusiastic based off the showing yesterday of how he performed.
I think huge amount of credit to Zach Delaney for this as well, because when that ball does sort of pop up off Liam Dick, I think Dylan Watrett is marginally closer, and Delaney just reacts quicker. Watrett's on his heels, and he springs away. And Dowd says this in his interview. Delaney he takes a wee half second. He doesn't just stab that ball to Dowds. You can see he just slows it enough that it allows Dowds to take that step back, and then, as I say, very skillfully puts it in off the underside of the bar where the keeper can't get it. Blair, your thoughts on the goal, please?
Yeah, I'd echo all of that. I'm really impressed with Anton Dowds, actually, I have to say, and it's a player who I'm still not convinced is 100% fit yet. I think it'll come, but his movement and he's peeling away, and obviously we'll get to the second goal in a minute. But it's more of the same. It's the being in the right place at the right time, but reading the game really, really well, linking up with people. It's pretty much for me like we're, the obvious thing to say, is that Jack Hamilton wouldn't have done that last season, but in the final 5, 6, 7, 8 games of the season, Innes Cameron would have, and it's that kind of similar finishing. Like we've kind of now gone 3-4 years without really having an out and out striker who was scoring goals until Innes Cameron came in. And it feels like Dowds, I mean, I'm not convinced he's going to score 35 goals in a season, but there's nothing to say that he can't. If we keep creating chances for him, there's nothing to stop him, because he's clearly quite a natural finisher. His movement's really good. He gets away from the defenders. He's physical. He puts himself about. He holds the ball up really well. Really, I think it's really good. And if, like I say, it's the fitness thing for everybody is going to be the issue. But I just feel like every time we see him now, he's a bit better than he was the week before.
Yeah.
And that's, at this stage of the season, that's all you can ask for.
Definitely. I'm same as you, really impressed, particularly with his movement. And he didn't do a huge amount yesterday, in the sense that there's not like 6 other shots that he has that don't go in. He's got a header that goes just wide. He's involved in a couple of chances in the second half. But the 2 chances that he gets, the 2 sort of half chances or better, he scores. And it's like, that's what we've been missing. It's a really obvious thing, but like, you don't need to be doing 10, 12, 15 really good things in a game if you can score 2 goals. And again, that's a small sample size. He's only played a couple of games for us, and the last goal he scored was a penalty, but it bodes well. And those are 2 strikers' finishes. Again, we're stepping on the second one a little bit, but it's the goals you want your striker to score. And I just think, I mean, we'll talk about the second one now. It comes so hot on heels of the first one, but not to pile on somebody we piled on already, but it's not a finish I can picture from Jack Hamilton.
No.
I'm going to say that's the last time.
It's not a run,
him, at least today.
It's not the movement that you would get from him.
No, it's not. I mean, in terms of that second goal, it's kind of 15 minutes in. So what, 6-7 minutes after the first? Dowds had another chance before this, but it's the space on that left hand side again. So I think the right hand side, as I said, because of the way that Ayr set up, they had Liam Dick as part of the back 3, and then they had Scott McMahon at left wing back. But when King goes off, they dropped it into a 4, but it meant you're then playing Scott McMahon, a left back, at left wing. I mean, on the right hand side, like J. Rowe and John Robertson weren't getting a huge amount of change because they were basically up against 2 left backs. But where you see the real stark contrast to that is on the other side, where you've got Ross Taylor, who starts the game as a forward, starts the game as a second striker, basically, alongside Owen Sturton. Wants to be on that front line, trying to run in behind the defence. And instead, he gets the same task as Scott McMahon. It's pick up Zach Delaney on the other side. And it's a totally different kettle of fish. And you see it in this second goal, where Delaney's got a load of space. Charlie Telfer comes over to help him out. And then the ball goes into Paul McMullen. And his cross is just something else for Anton Dowds. When we talk about the movement, but he needs something to move on to the end of. And again, it's Kevin Holt is the defender here. I mean, as experienced and as quality a defender, I think, as you'll see at this level. And he's totally taken out of this. Blair, I'll come back to you. I agree. This is all about the assist.
I don't think it's all about the assist. I think that's maybe just a smidge too far, because I do actually think it's a really good finish, and actually to take it first time is the key. I think a lot of players in that position, probably with the time that he's got, would have tried to bring it down, and it's one of them where you take the touch and the keeper's on you, and the chance is kind of gone. But Dowds is confident and just puts his sort of leg out and gets that finish on it. But I mean, it's 95% the assist, because that assist is just a thing of beauty. Like, and it's so good to see Paul McMullen doing things that we know Paul McMullen can do. We've seen him doing it for years. I really enjoyed his interview actually on Friday with Davey. I thought he was. I mean, at times it was a wee bit like trying to get blood out of a stone. He's no chatty man, but I thought he was really honest. And there was the bit in there about, he talked about confidence. I mean, it's such a cliched thing to say. Like, as a football fan, we're sitting in the crowd going, "Oh, he's looking low on confidence and he's lost his confidence." You've no idea really what's going on. You're just going on what you see in front of you and what it kind of looks like. But he basically says that. And I mean, he pretty much says that, you never want to get injured, but the injury came at the right time for me because it gave me time to get away from it and reset. Like, I just think, how low must your confidence be where an injury is like the way out of it kind of thing. But he started the season really well. And again, he's another one, just like Dowds. And actually, I'm going to say, just like Robertson, every time I see him, just marginally better than he was the game before. And you're just seeing that sort of little bit of increase, not, blown hot and cold and huge changes. I mean, that first half against Stenhousemuir, he was great. He was absolutely superb. And then in the second half, there was a couple of passes that he tries to do pretty similar to the one that he's just pulled off, trying to play that deft little ball through to the striker kind of thing. And they just don't come off. And you see the kind of head go down a little bit. But the more these things happen for him, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. The more it happens, the more we'll see it. But it's just the technique. When you're on the left, he kind of slows it down a little bit and doesn't even fully shift his body to get his right foot to it. He just kind of opens himself up and does that little kind of clippy. It's beautiful. And like I say, I think you can easily take away from Anton Dowds with that finish. It's a really, really good striker's finish. And actually, the amount of times we've seen players play a pass and there's nobody on the end of it, like Dowds makes that run. And it was one of the, you're talking about, I was watching it just there because I was thinking, how close was Holt to him? And actually, they've gone back into playing like this back three almost. And Dowds has just shifted himself 3 or 4 yards. So he's banging between Dowds and Dick. Between Dowds and Dick. He is Dowds. Between Holt and Dick, sorry. He's right in between the two of them. And Holt turns to check where he is. And as he turns back and the ball's getting played. And then he turns again and he's gone. And it's just that split second of magic that, it's beautiful. And it's one of them that you'll probably play all season and no see a through ball as good as that again, I think.
See, just to jump in there, I don't think I kind of mentioned this in our sort of like group chat earlier on. See, last season or the season before last, we don't score that goal. And the reason for that is that we don't play through the lines in the same way.
No.
For me, the reverse pass from Charlie Telfer is such a sort of chef's kiss type of a pass. It's absolutely brilliant because it just... it looks like the ball's about to get like recycled along the midfield, but he just plays that wee reverse ball that gets it into McMullen. And the ball in from McMullen, I think it's great that you mentioned the interview there, Blair, because it is such a good listen. And it's
really
obviously Davy's got such a good way about him to be able to get players to open up and to be able to make them feel relaxed. But like the confidence thing, I don't think that can be understated like enough. It's like so clear that he's just enjoying himself a lot more. And that's such a huge thing, I would imagine, for a footballer. Because, again, you never know what's happening with people off the pitch or anything. And, again, it's not our sort of business to speculate. You only see them on a Saturday afternoon, and then it's kind of like, that's it. But I think it makes a big difference knowing that he's not sort of in that position of, like, he's got his goal, and that's a big weight off his shoulders, and now he can go and play a bit. And he can go out and he can put in those balls, and he just, like you say, he absolutely kills both Holt and Dick with the one ball in, and Dowds takes it tremendously well, exactly where we needed him. It was such a great goal.
He's like a new signing.
Yeah, and I would
like it's literally like picking up an extra player.
If I was to take issue with it, I think it was a good interview from Naismith after the game. But if I was to take any sort of issue with what he said that Ayr gifted us the goals. I don't think that's true at all. I think both our goals were exceptionally well worked. Now, again, I know that he's probably not looked at them back multiple times like the weird fans that we are and view them through that microcosm of sort of repeatedly seeing them. But for me, I think they were tremendous. I thought they were brilliant, well-worked goals.
That, I think it's what you said there, Blair. It's McMullen's body shape that does the damage as much as the sort of trajectory of the cross. Because he doesn't, even when you watch it back, he doesn't look like he's crossing a ball until the ball is halfway to Dowds, and you go, oh, so did me that's a cross. Because he just sort of, it's not quite a no-look cross, but he's looking like across the park. He's looking the direction that he's facing. And he doesn't swing his foot at the ball. He just sort of flicks it out. It's like a wee kind of chip at a sand trap. And that's what, as you say, that's what sells Holt. Because Holt, it's a split second that he looks away. But he does it because he's like, right, he's not crossing the ball this instant. I can afford to have a little look. Mm-hmm. And that's the damage is already done. And just a final point on his confidence. The very, very first highlight in the Wraith TV package, it's kickoff. It goes back to Josh Ray. He launches the ball at the park. It's headed on. And it's sort of falling to Paul McMullen. And as the ball's coming to him, he lets it just fall between his legs, and he just plays a little back heel to whoever's nearby. It might be Adams. And it's like, he's not doing that at the tail end last season, prior to that injury. And it's just, I say, that's 15 seconds into the game, and he's like, that's a guy whose tail is up. And we then saw that again and again and again over the sort of course of that game, and it's a cliche. It was cliche for a reason. Like, that's the Paul McMullen we thought we were getting, and as you said, it's like a new signing, and just goes back to what we were saying right at the beginning, that you've then got four wingers who all offer you something different, and we know Paul McMullen at his best is, or certainly can be, above championship standard. And it's like, where is his ceiling this year? Maybe that's the best performance he turns in all year. And if it is, he'll still be a very, very good player for us. But has he still got levels to go to? Because I suspect Dowds might. But could McMullen potentially still go up another gear or two?
I think
you never know. Could be a particularly exciting prospect. Right, that was a good game. Good episode. Thanks for listening, everybody. Not much else to cover after that. I've certainly, for the rest of the first half, not a huge amount more. Kind of goal mouth action. in fact, we might as well actually just really take the rest of the game here as a chunk of conversation in and of itself. As the game went on, I think certainly there was a couple more chances. If the Rovers had scored a third, it wouldn't have been a major surprise. But ultimately, Blair, over the piece, having played with an extra man after, from the 5th minute onwards, is there any element of frustration that it finished 2-0, having gone 2-0 up after 15 minutes?
No, I get why you're asking, and I mean, Dougie Emery talks about it in his interview as well. Like, that's the frustration, is you didn't get another goal or whatever. And it would have been nice for Dowds to get the hat trick. Certainly would have helped. It'd been nice to see. I mean, Robertson has a really good opportunity where he takes it down, a great first touch, kind of on one side of, I think it's maybe even Liam Dick, I'm not sure, but it takes a great touch, kind of gets around him, and there was a lot of kind of blocked shots and stuff. But I mean, I said it at the outset. It was just, for me, that the tail of the tape, the whole thing is the game management, and just a thoroughly professional performance for them all. There was no stupid stuff. There was no, we limited them to, I mean, they weren't even really getting set pieces. That's always a risk, is that you give away a stupid foul on the edge of your box, they get a free kick and they get something from it. I just thought we handled everything really, really well. We defended really well. I mean, Josh Ray did basically nothing the whole game, but when he was involved, he did well, because again, that's another thing. Like, it's easy to switch off and start cruising kind of thing. But I just thought it was like a really assured. I'll say it a lot this season, but I'd pay my ticket money for Charlie Telfer alone. Honestly, I could watch him all day. He is just so composed on the ball, so kind of like, we spoke about it that last episode, about that kind of like being proactive and how it's kind of damning with faint praise, but it's exactly that. He doesn't dally on it, and you can see him getting a little bit frustrated with the passes going across the pitch. If it's happening a bit too much, he's the one that kind of turns it on and moves the ball forward. It was great all round. Every single one of them, to a man, did their job and did it really well. I mean, you've even got, just into the second half, Paul Hanlon, like, throwing himself in front of a shot to block it. Do you know what I mean? On the deck kind of thing. It was just one of those performances for me where everybody stepped up and did their job. It's easy to say the game was over when it went down to 10 men, and it probably was, but it was because of the performance. Because we've, like you said already, we've been there before against Ayr at Starks Park. Like, it's not a given, but really enjoyable.
Just to jump in on the back of that, if you're talking about game management, I would really want to flag up like Callum Adamson's performance.
Oh,
his booking was a thing of beauty, because they were on the counter attack, right? And I'm like, nod my head like that. I can see why you got a dozen bookings for Alloa, but it was so good because it was maybe a 2-against-3 or something like that. But they were breaking up the pitch, and he's just like, right, that's fine, that's enough for you. And he's 18 going on 28. Like, honestly, he looks like he's been playing for years. He's just, I think it's point got mentioned on Pine Bovril, but he really does look like when you compare him to how Paul Inseal was when Paul came in, like, there's such a big difference, because I don't know if it's just because he's had that one season under his belt at Alloa and he's a bit more adapted to sort of the senior game. But again, Inseal looked very raw when he came in. Adamson just looks so keen to get on the ball, so happy to break things up if necessary, and just really complements Charlie Telfer really well. I think that it's been if we can keep that pairing fit in the middle of the park, I think that we've got some really good profiles in there in terms of our central midfielders, and I think it will be a worthwhile change compared to, again, it's not to discredit the players that we had last season, but Sean Byrne was so frequently playing given injury, and then Ross Matthews is very similar to Scott Brown, different types of players, but sort of we didn't really have that sort of the same ability to play through the middle. And I think that was just yesterday. Again, you rightfully point out we're playing against 10 men, but also at the same time, we really did turn it on.
I mean, people don't need to hear me bang on about the balance of a midfield yet again. And there is an obvious caveat that we were playing against 10 men. We can't get away from that. But yesterday, that three of Telfar, then Adamson, then Montague, as a balance, as a unit. I mean, on the basis of that performance alone, I was pretty close to perfect in terms of nobody's stepping on each other's toes. There's no gaps. There's no doubling up. It's just a kind of perfect covering of roles and a really effective unit. And like I say, that's not the sternest test they're going to get. There was more space than they would normally have. There wasn't a huge amount of call for doing any sort of defending or disruption to a huge degree. But what they did have to do, they absolutely did. And as you say, Adamson taking that booking, it is just... I think I said this in the last pod with you, Blair. Like, that was one of the things when we brought him in. I was like, he get 12 bookings last year. Like, can I get 12 bookings if the game's passing you by? Like, you've got to do something. And I absolutely believe that's what you want from your young players who are coming in on loan.
Even Kai Montague going from like playing as a 10, then he drops into like the central midfield, and then he gets put back up to a 10. Like, just really good to see that from a player. Like, the fact that we've got the trust to do that in him is huge as well.
Just, I mean, feel free, both of you, just to pick up any kind of sporadic moments from the second half in particular. When you mentioned Montague there, that sort of chip with the outside of his foot, like the sort of...
He watched the Friday night game for Callie's equaliser.
It's like the audacity, almost. Is that the word for that? Where it's like, that's not a player's own confidence. Right? Like, I don't think it was. Who's he crossing to? There's nobody there. Like, if it's a cross, it's a dreadful cross.
I thought he was trying to...
No, I think I thought my slightly more cynical thought was he looked and thought, right, I don't have a cross on here. But then, even at that, I think even Kai Montague 12 months ago, if he's in that position, comes back, just steps over the ball, either comes back up the line or looks for a cutback, and instead he's like, I'm just going to outside, even if it is a cross, just to have a go at that with the outside of his foot.
We got a corner out of it, so it's...
Yeah.
And he's got the shot for about 20 yards that Harry Stone, I think, possibly going over anyway, but it's close enough that the keeper can't take any chances. The other one I wanted to mention, as you said, Blair, was John Robertson. I don't think that was an easy task. Up against two left backs, even if their whole team is down to 10 men, they still had two left backs. But what I really liked, and whether this was he picked it up himself or it was somebody who knows Liam Dick very well, just having a word in his ear. A couple of points really quite early on where he'd squared Liam Dick up. And as we talked about a couple of times recently, he went to go onto his right foot. And you're like, that's the worst of both worlds. Because that's your weaker foot and it's Liam Dick's stronger foot. And there was a point where it was maybe half an hour into the game and he tried to go down the line and Dick just put a foot across and conceded the throw and he was quite happy. And when that happened, I was thinking, didn't do that again. There's no point. If you go inside, he doesn't want it and you'll be on your stronger foot. And from that point on, he didn't do it again. The whole of the second half, every single time, because I was waiting to have a go for not doing it, but every single time he's coming inside, because we all know that Liam Dick's just nowhere near as comfortable having to defend on his right foot. And it's just that sort of adaptability. It's, even if it's not a case that he noticed it for himself, even if it was a case that Paul Hanlon went, listen, I know that guy really well, put him on his right foot. He took it on board, he kept doing it, and he was getting, some change at him, certainly better than he would have done if he'd gone the other way. And it's another one that I think just bodes really well. It was a strong performance. He didn't get his goal, but he kept plugging away. And he's, again, another one, he's just he's contributing at the level. doesn't look out of place by any means at all. Blair, triple sub with 25 minutes left. Scott Brown, Dylan Easton and Scott Tiffany all come on. Is that as strong a triple sub as a championship side could reasonably expect to make?
Yeah. I can't really imagine there's many times in any game where you're going to have that level of experience coming on. Certainly as a triple sub, let alone even just having that level of kind of depth on the bench. I thought it was. It's funny because we spoke about it. The triple subs. I think it was you and I actually after the Queen's Park game, and we talked about the triple sub that he made that day. And sometimes it's too much change, or it's like why spreading it out, and why kind of trying to kill the game and take 5 minutes and all of this kind of stuff. But actually, tactically, it's at that point I think was really clever because they're down to 10 men. They're starting to really kind of tire, and then you bring on an experienced or two experienced championship midfielders and a boy who's just coming down for the Premier League, and basically, right, let's go again. And I think that was the I talked already about game management and the kind of the wiliness of us, but actually just to never at any point let their foot off the gas. Like I never felt like we kind of eased up and started to stroll or go slow. And I think that the subs had a big part to play in that. And I have to say, like if that's Scott Tiffany coming in having played with Kelly B and training with the Bairns, by the way, get him another 3 or 4 weeks of fitness and we could have a player there. Like that was a really good start, a couple of really good runs. A really decent strike as well. Actually, he absolutely stung that. So yeah, it's just all, as I say, everything yesterday. I don't think you could have asked for anybody to do anything better than what they did, really. Other than, like you say, potentially could we have got another goal, but to get another 20-30 minutes into Brunei, I thought he was really good again when he came on.
Yeah.
Kyle Turner did really well.
Throw Turner in the mix as well.
Probably one of Turner's best performances since re-signing, I would say.
Yeah. See, that shot he has. Again, you can very quickly underestimate the technique that's involved in hitting a half volley when the ball's on the up and to get over it and keep it flat. I mean, fair enough, he skews it wide, but in terms of keeping it down.
As well, is he not?
Yeah. Really good strike, though.
That was another thing just to kind of contrast to Ayr United. So Gary Naismith in his interview talks about the boy Hatton that they just picked up on loan from Celtic. So the interviewer asks him, "That's your new signing. You got some minutes into him. Not the situation you would want, but you got him in the park." And he says, "Aye, so we put him on the right wing. So he doesn't normally play there, but we wanted to be able to talk him through the game." Which is that's a perfectly reasonable thing to do. This is actually probably really quite good man management, if nothing else. But
you're not talking Scott Tiffany.
Doug Emery's not doing that. Put it that way. Like Doug Emery sending those guys on could have done it without any specific instruction at all. They're all well experienced enough guys to go and look after themselves. Which again,
he can also talk to the boy on the far side quite easily. To be fair.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody except Leon King can hear him. But that again, I think is one of these things that, like, yes, it's a smaller squad, but it's a small squad of fully fledged championship players. When you've really got, like, Adamson and Robertson, are the only ones who've not got a decent chunk of championship football already, and Adamson looks ready-made, and Robertson's contributing already as well. So I just thought that was interesting.
See, just in terms of that as well, I think that with the players that Ayr have brought in and the sort of links, like if you look back, the speculation was that this, like, apparently they were after Kyle Turner. Did they get him? Came to us. Callum Adamson, they were definitely after him. It was linked in the papers. didn't go to them, came to us. Scott Tiffany was linked to other unnamed championship clubs, but you would imagine that Ayr are going to be in the mix for them. So that's like 3 players that came on, had a big impact yesterday, and looked reasonably assured for us. And I think that it can't be understated. Like, if we are going to be having a tilt at going for 4th place, which I think after yesterday, I don't think we should be under any illusions that should very much be the case. Like, that should be the level that we're potentially looking at. Having that depth to be able to go in and have multiple players that are tried and tested at this level, or that have got the potential to adapt and be very good at this level, I don't think we're carrying like really any particular passengers as such from the look of things at the moment. Like, we've got depth. Again, it could be that we hit later on in the year. I mean, we really need to stop Callum Fordyce and any sort of contact with advertising hoardings, because it's just a tremendously scary prospect. But outside of that, well, if we can keep everyone fit, there's no reason that we can't have a sort of real positive season and a real tilt here, because we've started really strongly, and I don't think that we should be afraid of sort of saying that. Again, everyone.
It's a wee bit like I was going to say, it's a wee bit like St Johnstone last season, in the sense that we talked a lot about squad size last season, and they had this massive squad. And you were like, yeah, but every single one of them is like an experienced championship player. Every single one of them, there's no bairns in there. Like, there's no young kids. So we might have a 25, 26 man squad, but that includes Rayside or Callum Hanna or whatever, boys who realistically they're not going to be playing barring something going drastically wrong. Like, they're not part of the first team squad in that sense. I do feel like if Embry's plan is to have this kind of 22-man squad kind of size, if you can fill it full of seasoned championship players, and the young boys that he's got are Kai Montague and Callum Adamson, who are certainly, I mean, it's early days, it's a long season, to get me wrong, but like, you can't ask for much better. And John Robertson as well is obviously one of the younger ones, but I just think it's not necessarily depth as in there are, hundreds of boys at the side waiting to come on. It is the idea that actually any one of them can come in and step in at any point and are like experienced enough to just step in and do the job. I
mean, like, if Delaney Delaney had a good game yesterday, right? Just to call this out, very really good game yesterday. I thought he was excellent. Yeah. Say he doesn't have a good game. Oh no, we've got to bring in Lewis Stevenson, who's got about 600 appearances in the top flight of Scottish football. Like, it's not a problem. Also, as well, just to call that out, the Delaney kick out, complete enough an event. Like, we watched it back on that. Sort of got to give a mention to Cadley, who's got that Super Air vlog from the away end. I thought that was quite funny to see a large swathe of the away support sort of claiming that should have been a potential red at the time. And I just thought it was absolutely nothing. It's turned by Taylor.
And one of these ones that only happens in a game that's already had a red card.
Yeah, 100%.
You sort of feel, and listen, we've done it as well. You sort of feel like there's like an entitlement to a levelling up.
Yeah.
It's like suddenly everything is elevated to like, that could have been a red card.
Reversible.
But I didn't think at the time that there was anything in that. Just also a brief word on Scott Tiffany for me as well. So I will cop to not being quite as cock-a-hoop about Scott Tiffany signing as a lot of people were. Not that I was in any way like I thought it was a bad idea or anything. I just had some sort of reservations given, well, basically the second half of last season onwards. He's been training with the 19s, playing for Kilmarnock's 19s, hasn't been anywhere near the first team at all. And I was kind of wondering, fearing maybe, like, how much of an effect does that have? And, you can see that going one of two ways. Do you end up a bit kind of downtrodden and a bit browbeaten and your confidence is shot and, it's not a huge drop from a side that finished 10th in the Premiership down to, well, we are second in the Championship. So, but I will say, any of those kind of reservations, certainly a bit early to say they were entirely put to bed, but I was really pleased with what I saw. I'm really quite impressed with Scott Tiffany. There's a touch when the ball's played into him, and he just takes it in his stride, and it's like before he even looks like he's controlled it, he's through the defence, and he ends up he's going slightly wide just because the path his run is on. You think like that's not a first touch you see every day in this division like that. And just as he got that shot away that Stone gets behind and again does very well to hold on to. But I was any of those kind of initial reservations that I had. Certainly, I didn't see any evidence to support them. So, yes, consider me firmly on the Tiffany bandwagon alongside everybody else now as well. Robbie, anything else from that second half you want to pick up on?
No, I thought it was just really an enjoyable game to watch. I came out of Starks Park yesterday just thinking like that was a really good day at the football. We've seen a lot of performances over the last few years where it's been a bit flat. And I felt like yesterday we were kind of inching towards creeping up the gears. It would have, of course, been great to get more goals, but at the same time, it was never a concern. It was never a feeling of like, I mean, if Ayr had scored, you can almost guarantee the fans would have been like straight away like, oh my God, we didn't do enough to score more. But like we limited them. And ultimately we played the occasion. Like when they went down to 10 men, we were so good with the ball. We worked incredibly hard. We continued to press them. We got our goals. And then after that, it didn't really matter what Ayr did because we were so positive in terms of potentially being able to sort of... Firstly, we kept the ball really well. We forced them into high presses and we sort of forced them to come out a little bit. And then we were really trying to exploit them on the back line. But yeah, I think there was a lot of sort of grumbling at points about the way that we were playing. I thought it was a fantastic performance in terms of just
me too.
How we game management, the phrase of the day. And I think that we did incredibly well just to dictate that they never got a sniffer coming back into that game. And it was, I think you've got to give big credit to Dougie and the squad as to how they handled it.
I don't think there was any prolonged period. And by prolonged period, I mean longer than 30 seconds of that game where they looked more likely to score than we did. No. They crossed the halfway line a couple of times. There was a couple of, set pieces that didn't come to anything, but there was no phase of that game where we weren't comfortable. And we've all seen football. We all know you can get a goal at nothing. I mean, Stenny's goal in that first game is a good example. If Ross Taylor had been slightly closer to the goal, he could have scored one off his dish. Mm-hmm.
Instead, he's got a Puma tattoo on his forehead. And I hope that he's all right. I would say that as well, because it looked fucking sore. But that almost can't be legislated for. And again, we had a 2-goal lead. So it's not like, I think Thistle were quite guilty on Friday night against Cali Thistle of not doing enough to go and try and get a second, and then they kind of get sucker punched at the end. I didn't think there was any chance of that yesterday. Yeah.
And some of that minor grumbling that was going on, I thought was the Rovers were being patient. Like there is a difference between sort of side to side passing in a game that's 0-0 because you don't have any ideas, and side to side passing when you've got an extra man, you're 2-0 up and you're just running the opposition until they can't close gaps anymore. That was what I thought it was. And I mean, if you went and stacked up the chances in that game, you'd have the 2 goals. And then, I mean, how many Rovers chances would you be listing before you got to an Ayr one that was better? You've got that shot.
Had one.
That was the shot that goes narrowly wide not long after
I think.
Yeah, Water.
Yeah. Like, other
good strike, to be fair. Catches it well.
Yeah, he's sort of... it's not unlike Turner's, actually, where his technique is decent. It's just the direction slightly off. Blair, any closing thoughts from you?
Yeah, I was just going to kind of echo on what you were saying there, but I think that the really pleasing thing is when you watch those chances that we're creating, they're all from different kind of passages of play. Like you say, we're passing through the lines, we're going wide and getting the cross in. We're kind of building it up slowly from the back. There's kind of 3 or 4 different kind of ways that we're finding those routes to goal. But even the one that Tiffany has, the ball comes to him. He nutmegs the young lad that's playing in midfield at that point, and then absolutely leathers it. But if you watch the replay, Anton Dowds is chasing that in. There's every chance that the goalie spills that. Do you know what I mean? So even just at that point, there was no switching off and game's over. Like we'll just ping shots from wherever. Like I said, professional, just that kind of game management thing. It was really, really pleasing to see.
Because you had the other one where Harry Stone spilled it again, and Delaney sort of tried to nick it, but they cleared it up. Because Dowds, again, he's right where he needs to be there. So it's I just thought it was really good how we controlled it. A lot to be enthusiastic about after that.
Definitely. And listen, I don't think anybody's getting carried away. We know that we played the vast majority of that game with an extra man. But as Davey and Dougie Emery talked about in the post-match that they did, like you can only beat the team in front of you. You can only play the game that's taking place. And I thought that was what we did. And absolutely. Had we scored a third, I would have been even happier. But I think all the work was done that could have gotten a third goal. I think the goalkeeper played very well. That you've still got 4 very good defenders and 3 very good defenders, Luke Macbeth and also Scott McMahon on the park from that entire time. It's not a bunch of bairns or anything like that. It's still decent championship players. So very much a professional performance that thoroughly merited all 3 points. And I think really no real downsides, I don't think. No real kind of negatives to take from that. So
no, nothing.
I think that will do us for tonight. Thank you, as always, for listening. With a Friday night game in store, it'll be a relatively quick turnaround for us. We'll be back midweek with a preview pod to discuss a trip to face big spending Dunfermline Athletic. And we will speak to you again then. Thank you and goodbye.